We farm sheep and beef cattle and on hill country, and have a little bit of rolling finishing country over the front of the farm. Mum and Dad were very passionate about tree planting, and especially my mum, and I think that influenced my father a bit, and I feel we get a lot from it, especially on hill country. They add a lot to the farm, and environmentally and just visually as well. Planting for stability, that's probably the main reason that we're planting the poplar poles. We find them really good on slow moving earth, is what I probably call it. Hills where you can actually see that the soil is almost like a glacier of dirt is slowly going down the hills, and hopefully by planting the poplar poles we're mitigating that. That'll hopefully lower our sediment into the rivers and streams around the area. Also, the great thing about the poplar poles is generally you can still keep grazing amongst the poles. You don't have to fence them off as much. It's not as unlike some other tree species you will. Find a poplar variety that will grow well in your climate and soil type. There's probably 3 varieties that we're going for now, and that's mainly the Unananthus, Kawa and Veronese. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. Kawa seem to do well with us, and I think they like a bit more fertile soil and a bit more shelter. The Veronese do well in a bit more wind, but they're not very possum tolerant. We have had some successes and failures with pole sizes. We purchased some poles about 5 years ago from a nursery, 3-metre poles that were too light or too small. We had a large amount of losses from just being broken by stock rubbing on them. It was a bit of a learning curve there when we were planting them with. We thought they were great, and we put weaners and yearlings in with them, that them rubbing on them was going to lower our success rate there. We have some tracks on hill country that we've seen cracks develop in them from the slow moving earth. The trees are there to hopefully stabilise that track and prevent it from just totally falling away from us one day. Stock shade's a big one in the summertime. I see almost an empty paddock where there are stock in there, but they're all under the trees out of the sun on a hot summer's afternoon. Also, there's that shelter during the winter as well from the cold southerly. We do see the stock picking up foliage off the ground, which is extra feed, I guess, and in the future, it's a long-term thing, but I foresee it once the trees get big enough, we could possibly maybe just prune them up a little bit if it is a dry summer. Use them as foliage. If you're willing to plant up and fence them off, you can use wands. We've found stock and sheep will break off wands, which are literally like a pool cue type. We've had good success with poles that are almost like a fence post, but that does require a lot of labour and can be hard on steep hill country. Just obviously lugging them around the hills, and you need to bore them in and obviously ram them like a post, really. Maybe it's the greenie in me coming out. I don't like using the plastic. If we can, we try to avoid that. And you will have to go around and pick them up after a few years, make sure, otherwise you're going to have litter around your farm. They will protect for a while, but once the tree gets too big, you lose it. You'll lose the sleeves. Also, we find our stock aren't too bad when it comes to ring barking. However, we have had Dodie, get out of it. Yeah, horses can be a big issue when it comes to the ring barking and killing trees. If you're not going to use a sleeve on them, you'll need to probably use a paint or something like that, a deterrent to keep the horses away. We try and do a plantation every year. We try to plant areas where you think you wouldn't get a tractor to easily. And it's kind of landscape planting, so it looks a bit more natural, and your flats and your rolling areas don't have trees on them, but it's your steeper slopes that are planted up. We try to do it obviously in the winter time when the soil moisture levels are high, to give the poles a good chance of taking off.